Hello, I'm Master Marslander, and in this episode of Amp Analysis, we're going to be talking about ifi's flagship $1,300 portable headphone amp DAC, the Diablo 2. This is an absolute beast of a portable amp DAC with a ton of power under the hood and just chock full of features. But you really can't seem to talk about the Diablo 2 here without also having to talk about some of the problems that the Diablo 2 had when it first launched. Right before and on its release, there was some we can call misleading information regarding its power output capabilities. And this misleading information was included in the packaging and the product marketing on the website and everywhere else. It was something that they really boasted for, but wasn't 100% transparent. Now, obviously, this is some brow-raising behavior coming from ifi. And if you want to learn more about what exactly happened, there's a link in the description of this video that will take you to Golden Sound's video, where he breaks down the entire situation, and that should give you an idea of what actually happened. There really isn't much more that I could add to the conversation that hasn't already been said, but from what I've gathered, ifi has seen and heard everyone's concerns and comments, and has gone forward to actually remove some of that branding and that misleading information from their packaging, from their marketing materials. So for all intent and purpose, from what I can tell, ifi seems to have learned from their mistake and have corrected their mistake. Now, with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about the merits of the product itself, because there's actually quite a lot to talk about. Do note that this was provided to me by ifi for this review, so thank you very much, ifi. We appreciate you. But all thoughts and opinions of the Diablo 2, as always, will be my own. If you like this video or this kind of content, then I hope that you consider subscribing. It helps the channel a lot. But now let's go ahead and get started and talk about the build. And here it is, the Diablo 2. Yes, believe it or not, this is a portable headphone amp DAC, even though it is kind of a chonky beastie boy. But it is still something that's going to fit in your pocket, so yeah, it is portable. But man, there's a lot packed into this chassis, packed into this design. This is one of the most feature-packed portable amplifiers I've maybe ever seen. There's a lot to talk about here, so just get ready for an onslaught. First of all, this is an all-metal, all aluminum chassis. It is extremely robust, extremely sturdy, and just solid. This is one humongously solid device. My goodness. It's got some weight to it. It feels like just this super robust thing. I could use this as a bludgeoning weapon. It's kind of badass. You notice all these kind of grooves on the outside of the chassis here, and they do kind of reminiscent something like almost like a type of metal heatsink, but they actually do have some functionality to them besides just kind of looking kind of cool. Primarily, yes, this is a portable amp DAC, but it can also very, very well be used on your desk. And, you know, having it so flat on the desk here makes it maybe a little difficult to use some of the buttons and to move the volume control here. So what they actually provide you are some feet to lift it off the desk a little bit. So that's what the grooves are really for. Sliding on your feet here and adjusting how far the device sits up on an angle on your desk. So now the buttons are a lot easier to get to. Volume control is a lot easier to get to. It just, and also just kind of looks freaking cool. But yeah, that's why you got these little grooves here. They're all over the place. And yes, I guess if you really wanted to, you could even put these on the top. Look at that. Yep. I don't know why you want to do this, but there you go. Now it's upside down. Cool. So now let's talk about some of the features that are built into the Diablo 2 here. And again, there's a lot to go over here. But you got Bluetooth 5.4, which does support the latest aptX lossless audio codec up to 1200 kilobytes per second. So that's pretty freaking awesome. It does still support regular aptX and even aptX adaptive. You also get LDAC support, LHDC, AAC, and SBC support. In terms of your high-res audio, you get up to 768 kilohertz bitrate, DSD 512, and even also, of course, full MQA if you care about that. Then kind of the big selling point of the Diablo and why it is such an incredible beast is its power output. And again, this is where the marketing for this at launch was a little misleading, but make no mistake, it's still an extremely powerful portable amplifier. Talking about the maximum RMS output of this, you're looking at over 2 watts into 32 ohms and 19.2 volts into 600 ohms. That's your maximum output on this, and that is insane for a portable amp DAC. Absolutely nuts. Some of the more geekier features that are under the hood of the Diablo here is you have an Exmo 16-core microcontroller, you have a GMT clock, Burr Brown true native chipsets, direct drive circuiting, which do not require any coupling capacitors, optimal loop, which is ifi's native feedback loop, pure wave, which is their balanced symmetrical dual mono-directional analog circuit. Look at me, my big words. We have a MOSFET microcontroller, TDK C0G Class 1 ceramic capacitors, Vishay MELF resistors, Panasonic OS Con caps, Texas Instruments low noise ICS, and Murata control type low ESR high Q multi-layer capacitors. So yeah, this little bastard is just chock full of tech, just insane amount of tech. And to have it all fit in a portable device is just kind of insane. Now let's go ahead and look at the front panel, the business end of the device. We have our 1/4 inch and 4.4 balanced outputs. Do note though that it's not fully balanced topography, so you're really not going to benefit too much from the balanced. It's more of kind of convenience than anything else. Above our balanced output, we have our switch for XMEMS. Now XMEMS is something that either your devices support or they don't. If they don't support it, don't even worry about it. But if they do support it, then go ahead and turn that on and you'll generally get improvement in your transients and phase response times. Up next, we have right here our power mode switch, basically our gain switch, of which we have normal, turbo, and nitro. Normal, which is the bottom position, is what's going to be used for high sensitivity headphones like IEMs. The middle position is normal, which is ideal for high impedance headphones like Sennheiser 600s, HD 600s. And then nitro is what's going to give you that insane 19.2 volt up tilt in your gain there, which is very, very situational. Not a lot of headphones are going to benefit from that, but some do, and we'll talk about it. Then we have here our volume knob, which doubles as our power knob as well. As you can see, it just turned on. It's a very smooth, very linear volume knob, and a cool little feature that they have here that I've not seen on really any amp at all, and I think is actually super neat. This little notch right here will act as a volume lock. So now the volume is locked in the position I have it in. This is really, really ideal, especially for a portable thing you're probably putting into your pocket, where you can set the volume where you want it to be for whatever you're listening to and lock that volume so you don't accidentally brush it or jam that volume and blast your ears out. So that's a really cool feature. It's so simple, but I actually really, really like the volume lock here. Okay, there's your front panel. Now let's go to the rear panel. Here on the rear panel, we have, of course, our Bluetooth button for matching Bluetooth. Next to that, we have a balanced 4.4 input output, which just allows you to use the Diablo 2 here, kind of like a DAC, and you can connect it to an external amplifier. Next to that, here in the middle, we have a 3.5mm SPDIF input. We have our 5-volt USB-C charging and a USB-C input. Then, if we go ahead and look at the bottom of the device, this might look a little bit familiar if you watched our hip DAC video. This is ifi's IE match feature, which basically allows for some extra precise gain control for really sensitive headphones like super sensitive IEMs. And much like with the hip DAC 3, you have to use this switch and decide which output you want the IE match to be working on. So right now in the middle position, it's set to off. Let's say I want to plug my IEMs into the 4.4 pentagon. I would have to flip that switch upward into the 4.4 position. And now the 4.4 output here will be utilizing the IE match tool. It works exactly as it does in the hip DAC 3. Like with any premium flagship product, you do get a good amount of accessories to go along with your Diablo as well. So now let's take a quick minute to go over all that cool stuff. Put you to the side here and bring out our carrying case. It's a simple canvas carrying case on the surface, but actually this is a great case. This is a superb case. You get plenty of ways to kind of attach it to your backpack or your belt or whatever, but also look at this. You get slots on both the top and the bottom of the case so that you can run cables through the top or the bottom of the case, supposedly to your Diablo inside the case. Go ahead and open this guy up. White zippers. And yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff in here. Look at all this stuff. So let's see here. I'm going to kind of just dump everything out. We can look at what we get in here. Okay, so obviously ifi stickers. The most important thing you're going to get with any ifi product is your ifi sticker. That's nice. Hooray. Thanks so much. We get our USB-C to USB-C, so you can use this both for charging the Diablo or for connecting it to your phone or PC or whatever. So you do get that included. We get a 1/4-inch adapter here, a very thin and narrow 1/4-inch adapter. Have never seen a 1/4-inch adapter of this form factor before. That's actually pretty neat. But yes, we have our 1/4-inch adapter. Then we have a USB-C to USB-A adapter as well. Branded ifi, thank you very much. And then in the case here is where I'm been keeping my little feetsies here. You get 2 different sets to give you 2 different height options. We have the larger feet, which do give you the most amount of height. And then you have some smaller feet here if you want just a little bit of height. And again, because you can position these feet in different points on the device, you can actually have it really, really narrow on the device so it stands really tall, or you can have it kind of spread out wide to give you more stability, a much more stable sitting position, while also not being quite as high up off your desk. In here, you also get an assortment of cables. First, we have a USB-C to Thunderbolt connector so that you can connect this easily to your iPhone. We have a simple USB-C to USB-C. I believe this is the same cable that you get in the new HipDeck 3 as well. And then we have a USB-C to the actual power brick output. And the power brick, this guy right here, is pretty cool. Just kind of your standard power brick, but ifi makes some pretty good ones. These are known for the kind of their low noise, I guess. I'm not sure how much I believe that, but that's what the consensus seemed to be. They have fairly low noise power adapters. And then, of course, it's also modular. I have the North American switch here, so I got to slide that on, click, and now we have AC power. Pop that on, and now we can have our Diablo just always plugged into an outlet. If we want to maybe use this as a desktop amplifier, that's a really good solution to make sure you always have it powered and always charged. And do know that it will stop automatically. It will stop charging the battery once the battery is full, so you don't have to worry about overcharging. We got one more little guy in here, which at first I had no idea what this was. I've never seen this before, but this is actually an adapter to use the balanced coaxial port. There's all your accessories. This case just is very smartly designed because, like I said, you can throw in your Diablo in here, lock that volume to where you want it, throw the Diablo in the case, and now once I zip this closed, I could still access it through the ports on the bottom and the top to have my cables running out through the Diablo in the case. I don't have to remove it from the freaking case to my devices like my phone, and it'll operate fantastic that way. Hooray. Very smart case. And now for the nitty gritty, let's talk about the Diablo 2's sound performance. If I'm going to be talking about portable ifi products like the Diablo 2 here, then it shouldn't come to any surprise. I'm also going to be mentioning how it compares to another portable ifi product that I happen to really, really love, the HipDeck. So I'm going to have a comparison of the HipDeck to the Diablo, but first, let's just kind of talk about the general sound performance, the general kind of sound frequency that you get from the Diablo here. It's actually extremely clean and very neutral. It's very precise, but it's not sterile and super clinical like something like a topping A90D. It has just kind of a fun factor to it. It's very quick and responsive, and it does give you this kind of visceral intensity to anything you plug into it. But it does so without coloring any of the sounds. It's a very colorless amplifier. It doesn't really alter it or affect it much in any way. It just adds some extra kind of, I don't know, a shot of adrenaline to it. A shot of adrenaline to everything you're listening to any device that you have plugged into it. It is a very natural sound. It sounds realistic, but it also just sounds super fun. Bass is nice and punchy and clean. It doesn't bloom or bleed. The mid-range sounds extremely natural. Vocals sound very vibrant and very unflavored. They sound like they're coming right from your headphone and not from any other kind of processing. And the top end is nice and detailed and sparkly and precise, while also being able to be calmed and controlled and not getting into sibilant territory or anything too harsh. Running this on normal mode is wonderful for IEMs, super high sensitivity headphones. They sound great. There's no noise floor. There's no buzzing. There's no kind of distortion. It's super, super clean. And especially if you're going to be using your IE match option in the back here for IEMs, oh boy, it does just a phenomenal job. In normal mode, we can start utilizing more high impedance headphones like our HD 600s, and it does a phenomenal job there. You get still just a tremendous amount of power, even in normal mode. But nitro mode is what gives us that 19.2 volt up tilt, that extra amount of voltage and gain. And again, like I said, not many headphones are going to be able to utilize something like that. That's kind of overkill for most headphones, for most devices, but there is one headphone in particular that really, really benefits from it. Yes, it's true. The Diablo 2 can run tungstens, and it can run them hard. This is a big deal, folks, because this is the first portable solution I have heard so far that can actually power tungstens. Now, I'm talking specifically about volume. These get really loud, louder than I could ever need them to be, like hurting my ears loud on the Diablo. So just a tremendous amount of volume power here. How much tungsten performance do we actually get out of the Diablo 2? Well, quite a lot, actually. It does a really excellent job. In fact, the closest thing that sounds to the tungsten in the Diablo is something like the Vasi Audio V3, the 48 volt version speaker amplifier. These actually sound very, very similar, very, very close. So you're looking at, if we're going to be comparing percentage-wise, how much tungsten performance do you get with a Diablo? I give you maybe about 80% tungsten performance, which is excellent for a portable device. And in fact, I'm confident to say that this is the best portable solution for the Mod House tungsten that I have yet heard. And that's saying something. That's pretty big. But yeah, it's still not going to, compete with something like a Ferrum Stack or even something like my Flux Audio Labs FA10, but still, it's a pretty dang good amount of performance you're getting out of the tungsten here. It's just kind of a very tight and narrow performance. You're not getting a whole lot of that tungsten soundstage and a whole lot of that tungsten imaging. It's very kind of cramped and precise, but it still sounds pretty freaking great. So that's great. All of this is great news. This is looking out to be a pretty freaking baller of a portable amp DAC here. But let's take a minute and consider $1,300. Is it really worth $1,100 more than my favorite portable amp DAC, the ifi Hip DAC? Hip DAC is comparatively an overall much more smoother and relaxed sound signature than you're getting out of the Diablo. Diablo is about intensity. It's about power, big surprise. Everything is super quick. Everything is super snappy, super punchy, crazy transients, crazy response time. It's powerful. Hip DAC's more relaxed. It's more chilled out, smoother, warmer. From the Diablo, you do get more definition, more fidelity than you do with the Hip DAC. Hip DAC does an amazing job, don't get me wrong, but because of the intensity and especially because of those transients, you just get more information with the Diablo 2. Diablo has cleaner, clearer, more focused mid-range, a much cleaner and a much more controlled low end. Hip Deck 3 can actually give you a bit of a punchier low end, especially if you're going to use that fun button, the X bass button. That'll really give you crazy low end. But even without, Hip Deck 3 has a bit more low end presence. Diablo has much more low end precision and a more natural low end. You also get more image separation with the Diablo 2. I'd say quite a bit more image separation and a little bit extra soundstage. Not a whole lot. The Hip Deck 3 still does a great job with soundstage, but Diablo 2 opens things up just a little bit more. You get a teeny bit more air, and coupled with that better imaging, it's, I would overall, a much more immersive experience. Going back to the Hip Deck 3, the Hip Deck 3 does have that fun button, that bass boost, which I'm a little surprised that the Diablo does not have. It's such a well-implemented feature on the Hip Deck, just a straight push a button analog bass boost. I'm a little surprised they didn't include that on the Diablo. The result, though, does mean that the Hip Deck 3 is, I would say, a closer to tube-like sound than the Diablo 2 is. Diablo 2, much more precise, much more realistic, but still, again, not sterile or super clinical. And then one little characteristic about the Diablo that I found to be pretty interesting is that there's a little bit of a warm-up period with the Diablo 2. What I mean by that is I plug this in, I pick a track to listen to, I press play, and there's this maybe 1 to 1.5 second period of it like pausing and waiting, and like it's thinking, like it's like having a hard time thinking, and then it'll start playing the song, start playing the track. So it does have kind of like a warm-up period for whatever reason, and this isn't title based like it kind of was the problems we're having with title with the Hip Deck. No, this is kind of just a universal behavior of the Diablo 2 here. It just has this little warm-up period. So I found that to be a little bit annoying, but I mean, there's so much tech in this thing that I guess it just needs a little bit more time to kind of transfer all that information through it. I don't know. There just is like a second or so of pause before it actually starts to play anything, whereas the Hip Deck 3, as long as you're not letting Tidal take control of it, is immediate. So just a little quirk, a little ifi quirk for the Diablo 2 here that I noticed. All this together, the Diablo 2 is an extremely impressive portable amp DAC. It's insanely powerful and just full to the brim with top-end high-quality features and tech. It is a marvel. It's gentle enough to smoothly run the most sensitive IEMs while powerful enough, miraculously, to run freaking Modhouse tungstens. That's insane. It is extraordinary. But is it worth $1,100 more than the Hip Deck? Ugh. Listen, the Hip Deck is still by far the better price to performance for a portable headphone amp DAC. I mean, you can't argue that. $200, and it can do a lot of what this can do minus the power output. It's the better value, for sure. That being said, though, it's really hard to compare these two right next to each other directly because the Diablo just has a totally unfair advantage here. The amount of tech crammed in here just makes this such a more capable and higher performing device than the Hip Deck. I don't know if it's necessarily worth the $1,100 more, but there is no denying that this is the better device. More speed, more precision, more detail, more fidelity, and just tremendous amounts of power. The Diablo 2 is fantastic, but I think 9 times out of 10, I'm probably still going to be going for my Hip Deck for the portability, the much more beautiful industrial design in my opinion, and the convenience of it. But even I can't deny that this thing is just a real baller. It's an exceptional device. I'm really disappointed about its launch. I think that turned a lot of people off to it. That's a real shame because, man, this thing is genuinely badass. In any case, thank you, ifi, for providing the Diablo 2 to us for this review. We very much appreciate you. I hope you all enjoyed this, and I will be seeing you again very soon.